But it was so worth taking the time to try out different things and finally settle on something that is rewarding every day.
If you're in your 20s, you should have it figured out. It's that sense of urgency, and then when you don't, you feel like a failure.
For me, I can't expect something from my patients that I can't do. You know, if I want to be able to move like this or lift a weight like this, I should be able to lift the weight like this and move like that.
Please, allow me to show you something.
All right, you guys, welcome to the Savage Mountain Podcast, where we have unfamiliar conversation with familiar faces. I am your host, Quan Mickel. This show is brought to you by Neo Life Physical Therapy and Wellness, also Neo Golf, get your short game up, and Neo Fit, led by yours truly. Today, I bring to you two good people. One is a frequent flyer. The other one has the world's longest warm-up, and he is, but he's a genuine individual, authentic, very rare, and I guess it's just, he zigs while others zag. Today I bring to you Adam. What's your last name, bro?
Murray.
I knew that.
Yeah, I know you did.
I knew that.
It's just the camera.
Adam Murray.
Thanks for having me, bro.
Yazmyne Valencia. Middle name Maria.
One and only.
Mariah.
I like to set the table. If y'all familiar with the show, I like to set the table because me, Batchy, somewhat know you, but our other viewers do not know you.
Not yet.
Not yet. So, man, could you give us a rundown on who you are, your DNA, what makes you you?
Yeah, so I'm Adam.
Mm-hmm.
I moved down here like 4 years ago to study marine biology. So I'm a marine scientist over at the Gulf Coast Research Lab, but I'm also a former athlete, and I think that's kind of how, we got in touch. I do have the longest warm-up ever, but I need it. The body be hurting.
Yeah,
getting up there. So yeah, former athlete that has just found good people at the gym, and I would say that, you've created quite an environment, and you're an important part of my life here. And it's just been it's been good to be around for sure.
Wasn't expecting that, man. Wasn't expecting that. Also, not a former athlete.
It's hard to say current.
Current
Ultimate
athlete.
Frisbee, man.
It's on ESPN.
That's
or
true.
whatever channel was downstairs. It is on. Your warm up, and it's so funny. Your warm up is something that I admire, but something that's in here, that's in this building, is the emphasis on having a well thought out warm up.
Yeah.
And usually the warm up is kind of like the vegetables. To me, is like it's necessary, but like
People want to skip through it.
You want to skip through it. And so, but like seeing you do what you do, and I'm like, man, that is very intentional. And I just want to talk to this guy.
I tell people the reason we're friends is because of a warm up. And I think that's a compliment to the warm up, I think.
It is a compliment to the warm up, but you don't make it, and I guess that's to the person that you are, and you're very like subtle, you're not a brash guy. The exterior says it. Like, you can be a me person, but once you get to talking to you, it's like, no, he's just him.
I hope so.
Like in a room full of like athletes that's rocking and rolling, doing their thing, like you always will find your spot. You wouldn't say nothing. You would do your thing. We're over there sweating, going crazy. And I look over there and I'm like, man, he's still warming up. And now I work in a building where they do the same. Like it's an extensive warm up.
Yeah.
It's fucking long.
I
bro.
mean, to be fair, I feel like, the warm up to me is the most important part. Like, I don't want to hop into high intensity work if I don't feel like my body is well calibrated and ready to go.
Yeah.
And that has become extensive over the years, but at the same time, it's also a warm up that, hey, if you have 15 minutes to get in a workout, do this warm up and you're going to feel good the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So it applies to anything. If you're warming up for a football game or if you're warming up just because, hey, I slept weird and my back hurt, let me do this warm up, it works for everything.
And that's why this is so important, because but I think it's not the message, it's the messenger. And you being a messenger, that's not, you're a we person, not a me person.
Try to be. It's you could be the richest man in the world if you get no one to share with it.
Then what's the point?
Sucks.
I mean, I always tell people coaches back in whenever I had coaches or whatnot, they would be like, yeah, it's no I in team, and I would always be smart ass and be like, there's an I in scholarship, you know.
There's an I in win.
Yeah, it is an I in win. I'm doing my job to win or whatnot.
I do like that.
But I was like, but that's a smart ass, that's you being a young, brash athlete or whatnot. But as you grow,
I was there too.
You get older. Yeah.
For sure.
But it's again, and I know we're kind of we're stuck on this topic or whatnot because it's very current to me, because seeing the athletes in batchy season and we make and me, I'm like, oh damn, dude, when they do the warm up here, it just takes forever. It takes forever. And I'm like, and I understand the importance about it, but it's always, sometimes it's not it doesn't come off as genuine, just, this is for the betterment of me. It's I want to do something. I don't know if it's cool. I could be very wrong, because I think exercise in general, just entertainment in other ways, is very subjective. If any kind of form of art is subjective, there's other ways of going about it. There's multiple ways to the end zone,
right?
But just you, and I always find it as, it's not the message, that being warm up. It's the messenger, and a lot of times, and sometimes the messenger can taint the message, because it could be this kind of bravado, egotistical thing, and it's no, you're doing, it's good. It's like the dope dealer that I grew up around. They want to provide for their family.
Yeah.
But it's better ways of going about it. But you choose to do this thing this is the only way I can go about it, but I need to, this is what I got to do. I don't want to do it forever.
Yeah.
But I got to do it now so I can better my situation.
For sure.
In a sense, the message is to I'm trying to better myself, but the messenger, I guess, in a sense, is you selling drugs.
You're about to drop into some philosophical stuff, man.
I know. So that's when we're going to pivot. So, the other half of this equation is Dr. V. Yazmyne. And she is the reason, one of the main reasons that Adam's here.
The only reason.
The only reason.
For sure.
The only reason. And behind every that's sometimes it's behind every strong man, there's a stronger woman. But
that's the case.
It's just,
she's strong as hell,
dude. It's the spine, man. But you gotta have that. So what? And typically we like to hear from the man, but what made him be the one that kind of made you want to be hey, okay,
good photos at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's a lot of shooting. It's people be shooting. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Well,
Yeah.
what made him Steph Curry?
Honestly, it's crazy because I almost can pin it back to
This could
a
be
conversation we had, and we were on the beach, and I was kind of diving into the women's health and where I want to take my future and everything like that, and kind of got on the thing of birth control. It's so weird, but we were talking about birth control and vasectomies and his.
This was with me?
No, this was with him.
Oh,
this is
okay.
a conversation with him.
I don't remember this at all.
I got kids. Birth control.
We were actually at Danny Ball on a Saturday, and we were when we were off to the side and y'all were playing or something, and we were chatting about, I think this was maybe the second time we were both on the beach together, and just kind of his thought process on topics that I kind of had a similar thought of was what kind of sparked my interest a little bit. But I remember one of the first things I told him was he's oh, are you in a relationship? I was yeah, with my career. Mm-hmm. So I was very career driven when I had met him. So I think, just he was one of the first people that I met that was very, I feel had depth in somewhat of conversations. And then like going into like we went on a couple of dates, and I kind of saw like how much of a genuine person he was, and just like chatting with him, we had really good chats flowed nice. And then just getting to know him more, I would kind of say it was just like his genuineness, his knowledge. Like I've learned so many things from him. I feel like he has like a lot of knowledge under him. And like I'd probably say his emotional maturity. Yeah. Like meeting me where I was at and just kind of being like, okay, that's okay. Like, you know, we don't need a date. Like I'm just kind of wanting to see what you're about, like what kind of person you are, and kind of learning about you. So I think kind of him having the patience of just kind of being like, hey, she's got her life, I got my life going on, you know, let's chat it up a little bit and see where it kind of goes. And I think that kind of drew me in a little bit more to him. Yeah.
Because he's lived a little bit.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was.
I'm going to say, man.
He said he's an old head.
He's an old head.
Yeah, so like,
under his belt.
I think we became best friends pretty quick, though.
I would say so. I would say there is a lot of
very quickly
similarities, but differences within our similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, shoot, you and Kate both had conversations to me about it, about how like you could see the flow that like both of us kind of had, like of a, like we said, like in the last time, like the free spirited. And I mean, he's more easygoing than me. Like he's so free flowing. So I would say probably like the similarities. Yeah, for sure as well.
Because me, I was like, here you go, Batchy. I know on the camera I'm always looking at you. This was one where like getting the warm up, right? So it was warm up long before I knew what a Yaz was. And then
was it before you?
Oh, way before you. No. Me and Kate was together, but like before now.
Before
now, I saw
met
you.
Yaz?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
he had met you before.
Oh yeah, buddy. Oh. So whenever like it jumped a little bit more than just the warm up and the acknowledgement of, hey, you doing some awesome shit, and you're like, y'all doing some awesome shit. When they got a little bit more than that, I'm like, what changed? Oh. So I'm like, so man, I'm peeping, I'm like, man. But then at the same time, again, like, Yaz is, I pride myself on finding myself in, before I was in my relationship with my wife, I always found myself to like embrace being in the friend zone. And I was just cool with it because I had sisters or whatnot. And I always found myself like being okay being a security blanket, because a lot of times, and again, being a product of a single parent home, I was like, man, it's like you ain't always gotta like shoot your. I was like, I wanted women to be able to like have a place where they can still be competitive, or still live, or still like talk to someone, and it be straight up platonic. Like it's no kind of energy where it's like I'm attacking, I'm going for the kill, you know?
Yeah.
So not to say that you had that kind of...
It is interesting you say that, because I think, you know, we were very slow. She was very slow to bring me around, you know, the workout group. And that's because, you know, I felt that environment you created. It's a safe space for women, men and women, to work out together without maybe feeling those things you might feel at like Planet Fitness, or I don't know, Gold's Gym, where like...
Well, I used to hear about CrossFit. I used to hear all the time. Smashing each other.
And so I knew that environment existed, and that was the energy. And so I think one of the reasons why I was kind of slower to come around than normal is that I really didn't want to ruin that environment for her either. You know, where like, you know, she comes to your workout to have a safe space to put her work in, and me coming in as, you know, maybe an interest, a romantic interest, might shift that. Yeah. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it was even slower to come into the group than it could have been. But I think the pace was perfect in the end.
It was. We picked up on it though.
Yeah, I know.
Because we were like, I'm glad that you was like saying it, because it was like, I was like, man, I don't want to make it uncomfortable, because like, there was a part where, like that summer, I call it the summer of Yaz, because she came in and it was a level of energy, especially like for me, as like being a performance coach and a strength and conditioning coach. I'm like, she don't need me. Yeah, like she did when I workouts, and I'm like, I just posted some shit on NeoFit where like guys are like literally like still throwing up, and every person that I had on there throwing up were like maxed out. They got Division I scholarships, or they're in some level that's higher than me. Yaz did one of our workouts and she still had energy and I was offended by it. I'm like, bro, like usually people don't like still thrive in it. And I'm just like appreciative that she just wanted to be here. So I'm like, well, she's seeking something, you know, in the sense of like a togetherness, a unit or whatnot. But she killed it, but she wasn't cocky about it. She was like, I'll be back. I'll be ready to roll, you know? So then like she was single. And then we got to the level where she was comfortable and open and like discussing that with me. So I'm like, all right, well now full protective mode. I'm watching.
Yeah.
And every time somebody pop, Yaz is Quan is Yaz free. I'm like, yeah, but don't ask me about it. Like leave her alone. And it's like back to back to back. And I'm like, me and Kate sitting at the kitchen table, I'm like, like Yaz is a blessing, but she's also like
sought after.
Yeah, very hard sought out. And I'm like cursing Kate, like, well, I mean, like, it is what it is. Like, it's fine. Let's just go big sister, big bro mode. And I'm like, but we got kids. We ain't got time for this. But I really appreciate the energy that she was bringing and how she was authentic. So like, whenever the beach and the photos, I'm like, guard up. I'm like, I know it's coming because now he's here. So when he's gonna do it? So whenever you sent me the message, and I was like, "Let me text your ass." And so I text, and she was like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "All right, my hands off." She gave consent. Let's ride it out. Let's see how it goes from there. And then whenever you pulled up, and then Adam came like, I guess a couple of minutes later.
I think it was y'all had pulled up
'Cause
separately.
Yeah.
But we ended up walking up at the same time, so it defeated the purpose.
Yeah.
Pulling up separately.
Yeah.
What is this?
Little soft launch.
Yeah, that was around the same time where I was like kind of telling him like, all right, like we had been hanging out for a couple weeks now, so I was like, I guess you can come around, you can kind of be, and then and I think the next time his brother and his fiance
Brother
was
just
in
like
town.
Joe Burrow, bro.
Yeah, he
Joey
does
B.
that a lot.
And then
yeah.
Adam asked me at the house, he was like, so are we like pulling up separate to this? I was like, no, we can ride together. At
That
this
was
point, we
like
can
that
ride
was like
together.
oh, she's down with me.
Yeah, I
moment.
think I was thinking
Yes, man. And that's when we was sort of like, all right, let's rock and roll now. We're good. And then me being a coach, I'm like, now the warm ups. Maybe he can work out with us now.
And I still haven't. Yeah. When you talking about people, D1 athletes throwing up and stuff, I still haven't gotten to those workouts, and that's
God
for
bless. We're
damn
gonna get
good
you there.
reason about it.
Dude, Bilbo has absolutely like been an absolute blessing, bro.
Yeah, he is such a blessing.
He is as like I thought I would get you first. You did work out with us once. You did work out with us once.
Maybe once or twice at most.
But Bilbo like able to like I love how I said, yeah, man, Adam, we're gonna get him soon. We're gonna get him soon.
He
man.
kind of stopped trying. He's a really good salesperson, as you know.
Yeah.
And
Dude, he
I'm one of those
is.
dudes, if you ask me once, I'll say no. If you ask me twice, all right, I'm down. I've been a little more
Yeah.
stubborn with y'all's workouts. So I'm surprised
No,
Bilbo
I
hasn't
remember-
got me yet.
I remember the workout he did actually end up going. You went because I was going to the workout, but I ended up doing glute to it.
Oh my God.
And this is when you had him
sled.
doing like the sled with the frog jump.
And my shoe was coming off in front of the shorty, and I was like, "Oh, this is so embarrassing. I'm never coming back to this. She ain't even working out with me."
Me and Kate over here doing like sumo squats or
I
something.
wanted to
I'm
do
like,
y'all's
okay.
workout.
Man, and that's the last one. And we ain't seen Adam since. Adam ain't been back, man. Adam ain't been back. But as we continue on, let's talk about career as far as like yours.
Mine?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
it's always water because I'm afraid of it.
Well, I mean,
I'm afraid what's in it.
the thing I think one of the reasons that
You like what's in the water?
It scares me. It's scarier than like outer space, I think, for sure.
Bro, yeah, deep sea, bro.
Sure.
Yeah, deep sea water, like the up there. I've kind of embraced. I watch enough movies where I'm like, yeah, I want to do with that down
what
there.
was what we were watching? He put us on.
Love, Death, Robots.
Love, Death, Robots. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dope. It's dope.
Very dope.
Yeah,
But it's like it's so much up there as far as the imagination, right?
yeah,
But downstairs, it's not enough.
yeah.
And
it's
it's
kind of
scary.
like ignorance is bliss. Like we don't know what's in space, and we haven't really seen much. But we know it's in the ocean, type of thing. Yeah, I feel that. I mean,
I don't know what's down there all the time.
I guess
Bruh,
that's true.
That is scary.
I don't know. I really try not to think about that. I've swam with sharks. I've swam with alligators. You know, night dives with big sea turtles and things like that. When you're down there, you're really so amazed by the creation that fear kind of goes away. It's only there before you get in the water.
Yeah.
You know? Before you get in the water, you're like, man, maybe there's a tiger shark right there. You know what I mean? But then you get in the water and there's so much going on. Your fear turns into curiosity.
Really?
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that's really what calms those nerves as far as that goes. But as far as career-wise, I mean, I think the main reason we all sort of think similarly and get along really well is because I've always not been a marine biologist. I've always been interested in biology, period. So I actually started out, like, when I was playing football my freshman year, I was a kinesiology major.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to do physical therapy. And so we connect quite a bit on that topic just because I almost feel like she's pursuing as her main career what would have been my secondary career. You know what I mean? If things had worked out, or my main career if things had worked out how they were supposed to. But, you know, the path is long and windy. It's not a straight line. So
never linear. Never linear.
But I always wanted to be in the biological aspect of things, but it was initially towards, you know, human anatomy and athletics.
Yeah.
That's really my foundation for biology is kinesiology, anatomy, things like that, athletic performance. So I think that's really where we sort of connect in that realm. And then I kind of realized it wasn't quite for me, but I still wanted to stay in biology. So I went from kinesiology. I stopped playing football after my freshman year, came back home, and then I got into ultrasound sonography. I really wanted to do ultrasounds for athletes. But when you get into ultrasound sonography, it's very much geared towards pregnancies and things like that. And so I just really wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't really seeing an opportunity to pivot from typical medical practices with ultrasounds towards a more athletic approach. So I kind of bailed on that. After that, I was like, I'm done working with humans. Before I got obsessed with football when I was 9, I was obsessed with sharks. But sports became my life. I was playing 4 or 5 sports a year from the ages of 9 to 18, 19 years old. And I was consumed by sports. I completely forgot about my love for the ocean as a really young child. But after I gave up on ultrasound stuff, I took some time and kind of like had to do some soul searching and figure out where my true interests lie that aren't in the realm of, hey, eventually you'll get into professional athletics, you know what I mean? And so I kind of found my way back to animals. And so I started going to vet technician school. And then eventually you have to decide, are you going to stick with vet tech or are you going to actually go to vet school? There was only one vet school where I'm from in Virginia. It's at Virginia Tech, super competitive. I wasn't really sold on that career path completely. I also didn't like the ceiling as a vet technician. It's very low.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, I'm going to pivot again. So I went to George Mason University, went to talk to their environmental science and policy department head. His name is Yoris.
Shout out to Yoris.
Yes, shout out Yoris and Kim, 2 of my closest friends, but also my undergraduate, and then his partner ended up being my graduate school advisor. So they were sort of like, talking to Yoris convinced me to get into the environmental science aspect of things. So I had enough undergraduate credits to have 2 degrees, but because I had bounced around so much, none of them really applied to a single degree.
Yeah.
So I spent the last 2 years of my
Liberal
undergrad.
arts.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's just a Swiss Army knife of nothingness. So I committed to the environmental science and policy track at George Mason, graduated there, really fell back in love with the ocean. You know, I became president of the scuba club. I won awards as an undergraduate there for my work in coral labs and things like that. And I just really tapped back into 7-year-old Adam and found like that fulfilling aspect that I had been looking for so long. You know, I was older than most people by the time I graduated undergrad because it took so long to find that passion. But it was so worth taking the time to try out different things and finally settle on something that is rewarding every day.
Yeah.
And so after I graduated from George Mason, I decided I want to go to grad school for my master's. That's why I moved down here. Yoris's partner, Kim, recruited me to be her first graduate student after she came from George Mason to University of Southern Miss.
Yeah.
And so I spent 3 years doing my master's degree in coastal science. Before I graduated, I got a job at the Gulf Coast Research Lab as a research assistant and technician, and I'm still there now. We study seagrass and blue crab ecology, and I just get to do the hands-on portion of science every day.
Yeah.
I'm the one maintaining all our instruments, messing with the boat, doing our seagrass sampling, doing our crab sampling. I get to work with our commercial fishermen and crabbers, and I wake up excited for work every day, and that's really all I've ever wanted in a career. And so 7-year-old Adam is pretty happy, I think.
And that's awesome to find that childlike enthusiasm
Super
on the
lucky,
day to day.
because not everyone has passion, or has a strong interest. I don't really like to use the word passion, but not everyone has like a natural strong inclination to something.
Yeah.
And I think that's just luck, the luck of the draw.
You see how he just dropped that $10 word in there, and just like,
Man, after 10 years of college, I better be able to.
you better drop as many as you want. I honestly, bro, since the time that like speaking to you, knowing you, like I didn't even know you that journey was there. You kind of like graze on it a little bit, but not like not the in depth. And you'd be ashamed of. I think, like, to me, I think you and I are very are similar, but open about, like, a lot of times people assume that you should have it figured out, or traditional, like a 90s kid should have, like, if you're in your 20s, you should have it figured out.
Yeah.
It's that sense of urgency, and then when you don't, you feel like a failure, because it's like, at least for me,
No, that's a heavy topic.
For in a sense, but it's like a sense of accomplishment, because it's like, damn, man, I'm at this age and everybody's doing this, but it's like it's nothing linear.
No, that was something I had to really wrestle with for a few years. When I was starting my new undergraduate journey at George Mason, I think I was 22 at the time. Most of my friends had already finished college and were already in their big boy jobs. You know what I mean? And grappling with a timeline that didn't exactly match up with traditional timelines, or where you feel like you're falling behind. Exactly, you don't feel as successful as your peers. Takes a toll mentally, and you really do have to grapple with that. But I'm also very grateful for it, because it taught me patience, and it also taught me, like, the journey is worth it. The journey is the experience, not the destination, of course. You know what I mean? I know people talk about that all the time, but it really is difficult to take a untraditional route to find your reward when it takes time. When your peers around you are doing it the right way. How they're supposed to do it, and getting rewarded for it as well.
No, that's the truth. I mean, I was telling somebody here yesterday, I was like, bro, I walked in these doors at 25 years old. Everyone else was on the path of what neo-life was thinking of, but they were 21, 22, like 18. But they're like, that's what they're going to be. And I'm like, man, I'm 25, just looking for an opportunity. I graduated, and then I didn't know. I was just like going to school, so I don't go to jail kind of deal. You know what I'm saying? So like, now that I'm out, I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get a job. And then Robbie said, come to the shop. And I'm like, thought he was talking about damn working with cars.
Yeah, right.
And stumbled my way into this opportunity and made the most out of it. But having that identity thing. But another thing you're talking about is that, and we spoken on this with you as well, Yaz, is the athlete identity of the athlete is always like just thrown on you and it's taken away. I don't think it was you. You're kind of like me, where it wasn't necessarily taken away. you chose to like redefine yourself from an educational standpoint, and you just wanted to find a way to give it back.
Yeah.
Like give back to the game in which you love, but also get paid for it, and then just like trying to find a way like how to do that.
Yeah.
And you kept finding bumps in the road until you stumbled upon like go back to your childhood, time travel.
Yeah.
And then go from there. How could you speak to that a little bit?
Well, after identifying as an athlete and someone who, you know, I'm going to make my life, my career, my money in the world of sports, you know, kind of that jock identity. It's not easy to go from a athletic and sort of jock identity to an academic identity. You know, people don't really associate athletes with scholars and vice versa.
Intellect, for sure.
Yeah, they're usually kind of independent. And so there was definitely a transition period where the, you know, imposter syndrome runs rampant. You know, you're like, I'm in this graduate program, kind of stumbled my way into this after I spent my whole life just playing sports. And so that as well as, you know, grappling with the timeline thing, the imposter syndrome coming with it, the only way to survive that is to use it as motivation. I knew coming in as kind of a jock, you know, my roommate David is one of the most brilliant scientific minds I've known, and he's known that he wants to be a researcher since he was in 8th grade, you know what I mean? And he fits the bill. He has immersed himself in science since he was in 8th grade. And those are the type of people that, instead of being around athletes, those are the type of people that I'm now associated with, competing for jobs with, collaborating with in research. And you don't want to be that dude where it's like, oh, like, this dude's just a jock. What's he doing here? You know what I mean? Like, Hootie Brown knows to get here. You know what I mean? So instead of letting that, you know, diminish me, I guess, or wear me down, I really tried to use it as motivation where, you know, I'm going to do such good research. I'm going to write the best paper. I'm going to get the best grades. I'm going to get into the best labs. I'm going to be the scuba club president. I used that as motivation to prove I belonged in academia. Mm-hmm. You know, and I still don't know. I still don't know if I've proved that, but the motivation remains. And so far, things have been successful. And I generally feel nowadays that I'm much more academically identified or inclined than I am athletically. I feel like I've been able to grow into a scientist as opposed to like, oh, I've always been a scientist.
Yeah. No, how you do it, even how you go about, again, the warm up.
Yeah.
It's like, I always say, it's certain athletes that do certain things, like, what it was, Alan Belcher. I say, you are
The GOAT.
Yeah, you are a fighter, but athletically, it's like you could have done anything else. You just chose to fight.
He's a crazy athlete.
And the way that you do your thing is like, I don't even like the way that you just go about the warm up. It's very scientific.
Oh yeah.
But
My
it's like,
first
but
love
you
was-
look so athletic. How you go about it is like, hey man, I'm just an athlete, and I chose to be a scientist.
Yeah.
Like you chose that.
That's reflected in the workout. I'll take it.
It's very reflective in the workout. It's reflective in how whenever you play Ultimate Frisbee, like I look at you differently whenever you hit the cut. Like when someone else is running around and doing their stuff, I'm just like, all right, they're just running. But then whenever I see you run around, I'm like, he's trying to be precise. He's trying to be efficient.
Yeah.
He's trying to decelerate, accelerate, trying to hit the perfect angle. He's looking it through. And then from anyone else is like, oh, he ran to the right and caught the Frisbee and stopped.
Well, that's the fun part too, you know, like even as a kid, you know, I played goalie in Virginia. Ice hockey's big, and I played goalie. And I remember, you know, 12 years old, I would just binge YouTube videos on the angles of professional goalies' skates and their different stances, you know, and how the angle and the edge work produces power and angles and quickness. And those are the type of things I loved. So there's always kind of like a very precise aspect to things. But I had never applied it to academia until I decided sports was a no-go. But I think that's the beauty. And like, people can go through their workouts and you're like, oh yeah, I feel it in my chest. Well, why do you feel it in your chest?
The why.
The why and the curiosity, that should never go away. And that really, I think the curiosity sort of motivates the attention to detail, I guess.
The in-between.
Yeah.
The in-between. Yes. We're leaning towards you. Now, as someone that's, let's say you are active scientist or whatnot.
I think she's a scientist for sure.
Yeah, you are a scientist. And you're also someone that's like, if I'm creating a team and I'm like, all right, I want you to get off the bus first, as far as like the physical component of it, like, yeah, I want you to come off the bus first. So if someone is like, what Adam says, doesn't want to be dubbed as the athlete that's in a room full of scientists, do you feel that because you are very outspoken about your love for athleticism, your love for lifting, like, which is from PT standpoint traditionally isn't the route?
Yeah. For me personally, I really think like the way I view physical therapy is, and kind of how I see is like, if a patient comes in and in the future, if I'm prescribing exercises to a patient and if they can look at me and be like, are these exercises that you can even do? I feel like it doesn't really provide that role model, inspiring image that I guess a PT, at least in my mind, should for patients. So for me, and like an athletic standpoint, I think of it as like, if I get a 17-year-old athlete who's coming back from an ACL surgery, I want to be able to put them through the best workout, but also too, like, if I'm showing them an exercise, I want to be able to perfect that exercise. And I feel like if you don't have athleticism underneath your belt, you can't really either have the knowledge of those exercises or be able to like perfect those exercises to an extent that I feel like it's not even so much as like having an athletic background for as long. I think it's just like a love for athleticism or even a love for like movement of the body. You know, you don't have to be the fastest, the strongest, the tallest, or, you know, the best in anything. I think it's just so much of like being able to move in a way that maybe your normal person might not be able to. And I feel like that's a way that athleticism can kind of tap into, you know, adults post collegiate sports or post high school sports, is like, do you move better than your average person who walks around? And at least for me in my career, I want to be able to. I can't expect something from my patients that I can't do. You know, if I want to be able to move like this or lift the weight like this, I should be able to lift the weight like this and move like that. So I feel like having that athletic background helps me tap into that personally. Is really like maybe going into like a sports performance aspect, but then even like what I really want to do in like the women's health aspect is I want them to be lifting, to get stronger, to strengthen muscles that they didn't even know were muscles previous to seeing me. So I think the athleticism is gonna help be able to tap into that.
So how, with that being said, because you and we're not gonna hide it. Like you and my wife were like really good, good friends, but also you and my wife are not what the typical woman would like viewpoint as, like, I want to look like that, you know? Because for the longest, and it's changing now. I mean, it's 2025, but for the longest, women would say, I'm not lifting weights because I don't want to look like that. I don't know. Lifting weights, but now osteopenia, osteoporosis, understanding that like muscle loss is hitting women at the worst, and then being in this field, which is historically conservative in regards to like weightlifting and all those things there. How do you feel like you can combat that by being someone that chose to lift but still like look like I am a woman. I can have my feminist approach about it and still like be me and wear makeup and be great and fashionable and all those things and lift more than Adam.
Yeah, for sure. She puts me in a headlock.
Yeah. I
Sorry
think,
about that being long-winded.
No, that's perfectly fine. I think, we kind of tapped in this a little bit last time. It's just kind of like we're waking up and it's like strength is gender neutral at this point. It doesn't, it can be a man or a woman under the same weight, and the woman could potentially have better form. We're living in a time where women are but in terms of like combating that, it's just kind of like, I guess from a doctor or a future doctor standpoint, it's like, what does the research show? The research shows that the strength of your legs has a direct proportion to mortality rate. Like if you're stronger in your legs, you can potentially live longer because you have less fall risks, you have less, you're catching yourself more, you have better balance. And in the end, that's what is leading to the hip fractures, the hip replacements, the knee replacements in these 50-plus-year-old men and women.
Yeah.
But I guess in more so bringing it to, more of bringing it to the feminine side is like, yeah, I might be lifting because I want to be strong, but maybe I'm just lifting because I want to live a little bit longer. I just want to have the strength to be an active member in society, and not just so much of not being able to doing anything, being a couch potato, and it's like listening to your body, rest when you need to, but at the same time, like, get your ass in the gym.
Yeah.
Live, like, take care of your body. It doesn't even have to necessarily be lifting weights. Just moving your body, moving in a mobility way instead of just of a strengthening way. I saw this one post on Instagram a couple weeks ago, and the movements that this woman was doing wasn't your traditional squat, bench, and deadlift movement. She was actually, I think she had like a 5-pound kettlebell, and she was doing like more mobility movements. And it's like, just because you have heavy lifting doesn't necessarily mean you can move your muscle. You have some people who can lift like 500 pounds, but don't have a lick of like mobility or something like that.
Can't wipe their ass.
Yeah. So like can't move and things like
I'll
that.
say it for you.
And I feel like kind of finding the happy medium of lifting weights, but also knowing how to move the weight that you're putting on. But back to the question of, combating that, I guess, stereotype of maybe women shouldn't lift as much weights. I feel like you said, 2025, I feel like we're definitely tapping into that era where everyone's moving weight, men or women. And that's one thing that I love about your workout classes is I remember when I first started working out with y'all, we were doing like dumbbell deadlifts. And, I'm like, okay, let me go grab my 35s. I was like, what are you doing? Like, go put those back. Like, go grab the 60s. I've never touched a 60-pound dumbbell in my life. And so, they were like, oh, yeah, use the straps, but that's what you're going to lift. And I was like, I don't even have the grip strength to lift these. I was like, that's okay. That's what you're going to be. That's what you're doing. And so I think also being around those women who are strong themselves and push you to lift a strong weight and be like, I don't care if you're female or not. Like, weight doesn't matter and gender's not seen in the groups. And that's one thing that I love about your workouts is you will have the men be pushing the same sled that you have the women push. And there's no like, I guess there's an expectation where everyone should be able to move the weight regardless of what you are or, and things like that. So for that, I really loved like your workouts because it just pushes you to be like, all right, you're a female, that doesn't matter. Like just move the weight. You're an athlete, and that's you're tapping into your athleticism to move this. And, that was a long answer.
No, I think it bleeds into the complexity that is that scenario in regards to like how women are seen in that realm or whatnot, especially in the PT world. And I was like, PTs, it was a woman, like originally a woman specific profession. I could be wrong. I don't know, but I think it was. But then it got taken over by, like everything. Like the white male population kind of taking over, but you're like trying to redefining and other people trying to find their voice in a very competitive field.
Yeah, very competitive.
Very competitive. But whenever you see a very competitive field, but then you see the people that get it, that's in a spot, you're like, I'm supposed to listen to you?
Yeah, and
You the authority and what?
we were somewhere, we were visiting.
And that's just me.
Yeah, I think we were visiting one of the schools, and some of the professors who also are practicing like clinicians, he just kind of saw them and he was just like, Adam went with me and he was just kind of like, they're a PT. Like it's almost like, I feel like physical therapy, at least in my mind, has that connection where it's like, you're taking care of the body, you're wanting to have other people take care of the body. You should almost have, I don't want to say you should look like you take care of your body.
Are you saying my comment on like, oh, I can't believe that's the
Yes,
because
of their, because not, and I don't want to say necessarily it was their physique or anything, but it's like, they almost didn't look like.
They didn't look the part?
No. And I don't want to say that there, but I
test.
also don't want to say that there is a part to look for PT because, everyone's made differently and of the sort, but I guess to a certain extent, you would want to look somewhat like, okay, you do the exercises that you're giving the patient to an extent, I say that very lightly because I don't want it to make it seem like in my mind there's an image of what a PT should look like, you know?
It's, again, like we're in a society where like everything bleeds into it, such as like sports, religion, everything is kind of, you can't separate these things. So things are like bleeding into each other. So for me, I mean, like, I think you should. So it's like, I don't want to take, if I'm in a class for business and I'm getting theoreticals from someone that never owned a business, why am I in this? I need someone that's owned a business. I feel like I'm behind. Like I'm paying the school, but I'm like, we just dealing with theoreticals. I might as well like go work at McDonald's and pay attention to how buddy doing what he doing. Yeah. But you work at McDonald's, you dubbed as something lesser than, but actually like you're learning how to go about business if you really like dive into the job or whatnot, the day-to-day operations of how you go about running a business.
Can I?
Interject.
Let me ask.
Get your own in there.
I think in the medical profession especially, anytime you have a patient and practitioner relationship, like the better the trust between those two parties, the better the treatment, right? So
Absolutely.
What's the correlation or the relationship between your athleticism and your physical ability and the trust between your patient? Do you think that, if you're in a position where you can do those exercises that you're giving out, do you think that instills more trust from the patient into what you're telling them? Or do you think that doesn't really matter? I just, I'm never down on the clinic floor. Maybe someone doesn't care whether their PT can do the exercise or not, but I feel like there must be some relationship between your athleticism and the trust you're able to build with your patient.
I guess that could be like based patient to patient on how they view that their, practitioner needs to, the capabilities of their practitioner, I guess you could say. But in my opinion, I would say that it like strengthens the trust that a patient can have with their practitioner because it also too helps, I feel like, expand the knowledge. It's one thing to be able to sit down and read a book that applies to the profession. It's another thing to be able to sit down and read a book that applies to the profession, but that you can relate to that book because you actually know what it feels like to stretch your hamstring yourself.
The application.
You actually know the application of it. And I would say, when I did PT myself prior to even thinking it was a career that I wanted to go down, I mean, all of my practitioners that I worked with, or I guess the doctors that I worked with in PT, they were all fit. There wasn't any, and vastly different images of fitness and all that, but they all could show me which each exercise like needed to be done. It's almost similar, like when I'm thinking back onto this is like when I'm on a soccer team and the coach goes to demonstrate something for us to do, and like he either does it perfectly and we're like, okay, that's what it's supposed to look like, or it's his first touch and it goes like the complete opposite way, but he's like, oh, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I'm like, but is it really? Or, I've had a coach one time in my lifetime where they're like, all right, we're going to go do sprints, and we're doing sprints, and midway I'm like, man, he couldn't even be doing these sprints if he was out here with us, you know? And so in that sense, I guess like it could subconsciously build that trust or like make that trust a little weaker based off of how the exercises are demonstrated. And it's also too like what I'm learning is it's also how they're explained, you know, because you'll have patients who come in who didn't grow up on an athletic lifestyle, and that's okay, but am I able to break down the information into a sense that, one, doesn't make them feel less than, two, that is easily like comprehended. You know, it's pointless if you're talking to a patient and you're throwing out all these textbook
terms,
and textbook like phrases, and they're like, but they didn't grasp a single thing of what you said. I feel like that helps build the trust as well. So I would say it's a component of it. Maybe not necessarily the biggest component, but I definitely would say subconsciously being able to complete the exercises paired with how can it be explained, the reasoning of the exercise, the knowledge and like connection you make of a patient.
Sounds like relatability. I play devil's advocate from like, because the second you said it, I went straight to sports. It's like the two greatest coaches that we know, Nick Saban and Bill Belichick.
They were
defensive minded.
Yeah.
You got a 5'7", 160-pound white man from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Dominating the world with athletes in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And he teaches DBs.
Wasn't really a successful athlete himself.
Not a successful athlete. Grit, but he has a level to relate and assume that not everybody wants to be great. And that's one of the biggest things is that like whenever you go down there, you assume if you assume that everybody wants to quote unquote be better than they was before, or whatever there was to that sense of normalcy, then you fooling yourself. They just want to be comfortable.
And sometimes that's what it is. Sometimes people,
and that's it.
You get people from left that it's like, hey, I want to come back better than what I was prior to the surgery or prior to whatever injury. And then you got some people it's like, hey, I just don't want to be in pain anymore. I don't know they don't care what that looks like. They almost just don't. They've been in pain so long. It's just like, just get me feeling good. And you're absolutely right on that. It's not always like, oh, I want to come in and now I want to be this top tier. We'll just consider an athlete or whatever. This top tier person. It's like, nah, I just don't want to have pain anymore.
I want to have pain.
You know, I had this surgery and I just want to not necessarily bounce back from it, but just be able to bounce from it.
Yeah. Some of the best treatments and sessions that I've had with whenever I was on a clinic floor was sometimes just talking. You have a conversation with them that's just as impactful as if you had them coming off the floor, but it depends on who the person is. But it's up to that practitioner, coach, or whomever it is that's administering everything to realize that and recognize that within the person. Like if I can yell at you, I motherfuck you all day long, but I can't do that to the next person.
Yeah.
It's up to me to realize like, man, you mess Adam. Let's come to the side. Look, this is why you did. This is why I yell at you about this and this and this. Or I can look at the next person, yell at them, and I know that he can take him. Like, look, I ain't yelling. I'm yelling at everybody else because Jerome can't take that.
Yeah.
Like me and him gonna probably end up fighting if I yell at. I can yell at you and get away with it because I know that you can take it. You know, same thing down there on the clinic floor. If I have goals on like, hey, I need you to not be afraid of the floor, be able to get up off the floor and be functionally competent. How can I find a way to get that? Let's get a seat. Let me throw. Oh man, I accidentally drop a napkin or something. Could you pick that up for me? Oh yeah, of course, baby.
Sneaky dog.
Reach down there, grab it, hand it off. How you feeling? Your pain scale is 0 to 10. Oh man, a 7. But the way you just moved don't look like a 7 out of 10. Okay, let's just keep working. Keep working. Find something that kind of relate to. Because at the end of the day, they just want to be viewed as people. But if you come in this situation with this like, I need to look the part. I need to be great. I need to get people like rocking and rolling. And everybody needs to be a physical specimen when they come out. You're going to lose. You're going to lose because that's not not everybody want to be that. And I got that from Nick Saban. Nick Saban, like, coaches fail at where they think that every kid wants to be great. You got to get that out of them. And that takes time and diligence and just...
Sounds like the scientific method also. You know, like you're running experiments on them to inform yourself
Come on now.
about them, collecting that data, taking that data to get results out of it.
There you go.
I mean, y'all are scientists for sure.
It's a scientific approach because science is questioning.
Yeah.
Like you never conduct business like a finished product. And then whenever you go about that, you feel like you're a finished product. Then like what is life? What is that? You got to continue to go on every day. That's what practice.
Yeah.
It's practice. You just practicing, just building and growing, building confidence every day, man. Every day you're just trying to figure it out, you know? Just figure it out in that sense. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
But we ain't done.
Doctor, yes. Doctor,
Yeah, man.
yes.
See, Dr. V, doctoral. How is and jumping into this, and you can also to jump into this as well, because like being in the world dealing with people, right, and different animals, humans are animals. Well, that's why we're the apex.
I'd rather deal with
apex
animals,
predator.
man.
Apex
Humans are the
predator.
tough ones to work with.
Right. From the mental, physical wearing, how is it like dealing with people on a day-to-day basis, like with your field? Because don't you know do you know the average the yearly average on PTs?
You mean
I
like
think
the
it's
burnout
like
rate?
5.
Like the
yeah,
burnout?
I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
burnout rate's like after 5.
Yeah,
5 years?
Yeah.
5.
It's
You know
it's
the
pretty-
NFL? You know the NFL burnout? I mean the average career of an NFL player?
6,
Nope.
10,
Negative.
4.
Like 3 or something too.
3.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
3 and a half. So you telling
Y'all
me
are not far off.
Bro,
Yeah, we're
15, bro. AC. Boom.
You're basically
Ain't no
NFL
things,
players.
bro. Just chilling. Basically, like you cast judgment. Every person that come in here, they come to you to sit down and you say, you suck that life in regards to moving. And now I gotta find a way to fix you. And you get burnt out 5.5 years.
Yeah.
And an NFL running back get blasted by a 6'3", 240-pound guy that runs a 4.3. Got less than 2.5 years on you, or 1.5, 3. What,
Yeah.
5.5 minus what? 5 minus 3.5. What is that? 1.5.
Probably anywhere from like a year and a half to 2 years. The difference.
Damn it, bro.
I think PTs, you're pouring yourself into other people so much, and that's the draining aspect of it. You got to fill your cup up simultaneously
Absolutely.
and find ways to do that.
That's what Justin, shout out, man, every time, bro. Justin Holt, DPT over in Bay St. Louis, I've never had someone compare it to like this. He was like, it's like being a pastor. Like, everyone comes in here and says, like, they
have faith in
fix
you.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, help fix me. But imagine every hour someone comes in and say, fix me.
Yeah.
Like a fish coming in.
Nah,
here,
that's
fix
all
me.
you.
Every hour
can't be doing
for
that.
8 hours. Fix me. And you're like, man,
I'm gonna go
Yeah.
get pinched by crabs. Like I'd rather get got.
that is
Yeah, it definitely has its different levels because, for me, both of my jobs that I have, both of them are very, I would say to an extent of people pleasing. Serving is a little bit of a difference. Like, I'm like, I'll have you for probably the same length, maybe anywhere from half an hour to an hour of you sitting at my table and I'm getting you anything you need. But I'm also too, I would say like for physical therapy, I feel like with the pain component involved, it does have that potential drainage on a person because, you can have a schedule where you're 2 an hour, but if for 3 hours every patient comes in and they are feeling their absolute worst, now like you said, you having to go and you may in your mind see your schedule, but okay, when this patient comes in, we can run A, B, and C. But if they come in and they're like, dude, I can't move. Okay, well, we can't do A, B, and C because now we need to transition to now getting you to just feeling okay, and not doing so much of the exercise aspect. And so I would definitely say it has the potential to drainage, but very back to what Batch says, like you have to fill your own cup up first. I think it's really important that.
What does that look like?
I think it.
come on, Adam.
I think it's like so much as like being zen before you come into work. I think having the time to, for me, a perfect morning is 5 minutes sitting in the sun, getting a journal meditation, getting a cup of tea, and maybe just a quick 5-minute stretch session, and now I'm like, okay, now I'm feeling good. Now I feel like I'm at my top tier to where I can go into work and I can have 5 people come in and be like, hey, I'm not feeling good. It's like, cool, let's get you to feeling better. I can pour into you because I've already poured into myself in the morning. Now, on the contrary of that, with physical therapy, I feel like it is a very high demanding career field because it is also very, there's not, for as competitive as physical therapy is, I feel like there aren't as many physical therapists as needed. You know, if you were to take this 35 square miles and see how many of those are old people or older generation who are in pain, who just have like your daily chronic pain, take them and then also add into your standard athlete who has an ACL tear during high school, and then actually compare that to the amount of physical therapists in those square miles, you're probably coming up to like maybe 1 to 10, maybe 1 to 5. And so just with that ratio, it's just like you're having more people in pain than you're having physical therapists. So that's where the potential burnout rate can come in, is just like there's so many people in pain, there's not as many healing hands as people in pain. So then you have clinic who's now getting just like pumped with patients who just, you know, are feeling better, and then you work for a good clinic and you keep getting now word of mouth, you're having more patients come in. So I guess just, you know, it has the potential to drain due to the high demand of people wanting physical therapy. But to prevent being drained, I think it's so much as taking it like patient by patient. Yeah. And like when we first started getting real busy and we'd have times where we'd have more than one patient an hour, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many patients that I have to see, so many flow sheets I have to see. But then when you really just see it as like, I get a patient who comes in and they're like, oh, I'm not feeling good. All right, let's do a warm up. Let's do some stretches. Maybe we don't do exercises. Maybe we only do 1 or 2 exercises. And then at the end, I'm asking how you're feeling. And they're like, oh, I'm feeling so much better. You know, I'm not having pain. I'm like, okay, that's so much nicer. We didn't just waste this hour. We didn't just waste that 45 minutes. You're feeling good. I think for me personally, that kind of gives me energy to then go into the next patient where it's like, okay, boom, I got patient A and B at 7 o'clock feeling good. Let's just keep that rolling. You know, if we can just keep people at a basis of having you feel better than what you came in as, it's not as tiring. Now, for me, I have a tech standpoint right now. I don't have the physical therapy aspect fully yet in terms of now you got to do the notes. And because of the insurance, the notes isn't just as simple as this is kind of what we did. You know, with insurance, you got to make sure that things are maybe stated a certain way, or all tiers are checked and all boxes are checked. And I feel like that's kind of where the drainage point can come back. No PT likes the paperwork that comes with seeing the 20 patients that you just saw that day, because now you got 20 notes that you got to sit here and sit at a desk. I feel like every PT likes the exercise point, they don't like the note part. That's where it can get really draining.
Documentation, the administration component of it. So what I think, like, man, input versus output. Do you think like if that was more of because obviously we didn't hit the geography lottery in our field, right? With physical therapy, so like usually people are used to taking a pill, but we're trying to rid that notion, trying to re-educate. There are better ways of going about like ridding yourself of these levels of pain that you're experiencing. Do you think that if there was an up in pay in your field, that would that stipend, or like that would like decrease that level of burnout in a sense?
You know, I feel like it could. I feel like a pay raise definitely could. But then I also, you know, you kind of mentioned, you made me think of something when you mentioned like the pill. It's like physical therapy is also kind of, I feel like, in battle with pharmaceuticals in a sense, because we're kind of, in my mind, I view physical therapy as more of a holistic approach, kind of finding the basis, kind of finding the root cause of the pain. And then you may have a patient who's on 20 different pills. And so now you're like trying to be combative towards all the symptoms that are being caused from all your different pain meds or all the different medications that you're on.
Like the side effects?
Yeah, the side effects and things like that. So I feel like I think a pay raise definitely should. Everyone, I mean, who wouldn't love a little bit more money in this economy, you know, like, or at any point in time, a little bit more money is a bigger incentive. But I just, I would say, pay raise definitely could help. I'm just not sure if that's necessarily the only or the biggest component of where it's lacking.
It's not the component, it's a component.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I think a pay raise would help at, like a certain time, and then it would quickly fade. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It goes back to like money can't buy you happiness kind of thing.
Can't buy
Yeah.
time either. Yeah. And that's another thing too, because like,
Why is he behind there?
That's my guy, man. Bad back, bro.
because it's like
My
also
executive
too,
producer.
one of those things where it's like you have this patient or boom, we give you let's just go off the wall $20,000 pay raise. Just boom, you got all the money in the world. Okay, but with that now you got an extra patient an hour. Okay, well that $20,000 isn't taken away from the documentation that you have. So like Bachi, he made a good point. It's like initially when you have that money, it's like, oh yeah, we got a little extra vacation money. But then it's like, boom, you get back from the vacation, now you're right back to doing the notes and stuff. So I feel like it's, you know, it's kind of a give or take that just comes with the profession. You know, like we're a profession that highly relies on insurance to an extent.
Yeah.
And with insurance comes documentation.
Man.
So it's just kind of just that give or take that might,
The healthcare, man, how insurance dictated, that's
all of it.
it's wild.
Yeah.
Do you feel similarly with your? I know you're not technically a physical therapist. You work with physical therapists. Your sports performance, like, is it a similar? Do you feel a similar sentiment to those types of things, or is it just kind of different because you're not working with patients? You're working with athletes that are willingly there.
Yeah, so like how we, and this is, thank you for that beautiful question, by the way. I do not feel it as much. But I can. The potential of it is there whenever you have to really engage with and depend on the clientele. So if there's someone that has like this rigorous approach or the goals, the expectations is if you have someone that's been a professional couch potato and then all of a sudden they want to be a New York City marathon runner, you gotta be like, yo, like these goals that you got here, you know what I'm saying? Like how we gotta go about it, and then the tracking, gauging and stuff like that. But if their expectations are unrealistic, and then that's whenever it can be, and that's sometimes where it happens with in the PT realm too, where the goals are not realistic.
Yeah.
Where you come in, like for me, we had a patient that had, it was the cancer that she had was fatal. It was a wrap.
Wow.
And she came in and it was like 8 out of 10 on the pain scale. But you got someone that comes in, and again, it's subjective, but I always approach PT as an art. So if you come in and then the pain scale is at, we're in trouble. The pain scale is at 6 out of 10. Or a 10 out of 10, but they just got a jammed thumb or like low back tightness or whatnot. You're like what are we dealing with here? You know what I'm saying? So again, like you managing those skills and stuff like that, and sometimes you have to up the ante, like push them a little bit further in regards to like the mental component of it.
Would you say like your burnout is more so frustration induced due to, you know, maybe a lack of accomplishment of certain milestones you both agree to, and then maybe they're not doing their part, and so it frustrates you and that can burn you out, whereas with a PT it's like, holy shit, I got a stack of paperwork to do, like all the time, you know. So maybe a little less frustration based and more so a workload based, whereas with you it might be more a frustration based.
And it could be workload too, like if you're working under someone, but also it's like you want to get the credit for your work too. You know what I'm saying? Like if you like for Yaz here, and she's in the situation where I am, if you're taking discharge pictures, because that means patients are graduating and they're exceeding and they're thriving and whatnot. At the end of the day, if you worked with that person that amount of time, you're not necessarily getting credit for that. Mm-hmm. That doctor in physical therapy is getting a credit for that person that's graduated, but you know damn well that like, hey, I done put in the work for this person here. Yeah. I done did this. I done saw everything they need. The water, the gauging of the reps and stuff like that. If you really dive into like the pros and cons of what physical therapy is, if you got a lot of patients, it's only one therapist. And if you're doing all of that, the technicians is very vital in regards to like whatever business that is in physical therapy, that technician is allowing that to elevate, you know? So whenever you're on the sports performance side of things, you want to be like, hey, if I painted this Picasso, I want for years, like, yo, I've been the back end of that, you know? I've been the ghostwriter for a lot of this stuff. But now I want to get my credit as like, yo, I was able to help with this person. Yeah. You know, and I need my name on that. And if sometimes that's not really like built out, then you're like, yo, like what the hell?
Yeah, I got you.
I worked my ass off, you know what I'm saying, for this stuff.
Cool.
And now whenever you come to the physical therapy standpoint, you're getting the credit for everything that you did now. Like whenever you're doing that, but you understand that like you was behind the scenes, you know? I always credit it to like if someone watches a movie, it's the people that stay and watch the credits and see all of it that took for that movie to happen, or is it people that leave as soon as the movie's done and they know that
I only do that with Marvel. I only do that with Marvel movies.
Man, so like the bit like that's what one of our things that we love comics and we love music. Like and that's why I think physical therapy and sports performance, it is a form of art. Yeah. Even what you do, it's a form of artistry with it, and you got to take care of it. And whenever the world inspires you, I think it's unbecoming for someone to not acknowledge the world when it inspires you, whenever you inspire the world. So like if the world inspires you to do some different stuff, man, give love. Yeah. Like show love back. Yeah. You say when you go down there and you see all that stuff that inspires you, curiosity, and it makes you dive deeper into literal like the part where people don't want to go. Yeah. You know, go deeper into it. And like that, whenever someone says like, hey, I'm hurting, help me. Like in a building where people like it's a level where no one wants to get exposed. Yeah. And people are vulnerable and they're saying like, man, fuck this. Help me. Yeah. And same thing there, like, hey, help me. Going like, show me. I'm like, all right, dude, you taking a chance on me? You want me to be a part of this process and help you out? Then hell yeah, like let's rock and roll. Like you've given inspiration for those people. So
I think that's a beautiful aspect of what you both do is you are directly, you know, a lot of what I do indirectly affects people's lives for the better. Y'all directly and every day, I tell her, you know, the mornings that we get together, you know, go change someone's life. Y'all every day are directly impacting people's lives in a positive way. That's super cool. Super rewarding, I would imagine.
It absolutely is. I think the vulnerability of like someone coming in and whether, you know, how you kind of said a little while ago, it's like, it's more than just physical therapy. It's mental therapy. You might have a patient who's just like talking for 20 minutes, hearing what they have to say, goes into that. But like the vulnerability as well paired with the uniqueness of every patient that comes there. You know, I may have 15 patients I see a day. Every time I bring a patient back from the front, no pullback is the same. Yeah. In terms of how you connect with the patient or how you then are choosing to go about with the exercise program, or even for you know, there's been times where me and you are about to work out and I'm like, I'm a little more tight today. I kind of want to work on a little bit more ankle mobility or, you know, just rotation mobility or anything like that. And you're like, okay, cool, let's pivot. And I think having that ability to pivot, I mean, me and him talk about it all the time. Your day is never the same. You never have 2 days thankfully of the same. Like, literally in the morning, I'll be like, what's your day like? And he's like, I'm not too sure. Kind of have a couple of things pending. They might go. And then even though for me and you, we wake up every morning, and even though we have the same picture of what the day is going to go about, it can still be vastly different from hour to hour in terms of like the exercise program and everything. And I think that's where some of like the really like coolness comes out of all three of our jobs, is like having just not the same thing every single day.
Variability,
you know,
keeps
like
it interesting for sure.
Improvisational. Well, that was awesome. I knew this was gonna happen. I didn't expect it to happen. Match like, damn, bro. Y'all had a marathon session. I pulled a Robert Earl with this one, man. But I to wrap it up, I always want to ask, like, especially for you, knowing that your path, and we spoke on this about it not being linear, man. If it's anything that like that you can muster up and like just tell someone that's like not on the traditional path. For so often, for me, I was like, I always tell kids or people that I talk to them, like, it's not high school. It's not high school. You that 1 through 4, that 1 year that's freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, dude, that shit it's up and down once you get out of that high school realm. And your level of success, you could find it. You could be 50. I think the guy that made McDonald's, he found the movie The Founder. He got success at 60 or 50 it was. He got his first million at 50. But the level of hustling and pushing, he just kept with it. You know, like, just don't stop.
Yeah.
So if it's anything you could tell someone that's not, that's feeling like they got the blinders off and they're comparing and everything else, what do you tell them to, like, hey, just keep going and whatnot? Can you drop some knowledge, something too? Yeah. We heard from you.
I feel like it's 3 things, like 3 main ones for me. The first one, live life without expectation.
We go.
I think if you don't have expectation, you can't have disappointment. For example, like when I found out I was moving to Mississippi, my expectations of Mississippi were generally negative. I came down here and I've fallen in love with this place. I've fallen in love with the people here. And I wish that I would have come down without expectations so that I could have even more open mind to the experiences that come with this place. I mean, it's unreal down here. When I tell people I live in Mississippi, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, you have to come down here without expectation and just experience it with an open mind. I think if you apply that to life, you're really going to enjoy your journey a lot more. Second, resiliency, practice it. I know it's super cliche, but it really is about getting up after the hardest punches, not about how hard you punch. Anything that's worth obtaining is going to require resiliency. You're going to fail a million times, but all it takes is one success that can change your life. You don't have to be the most talented. You don't have to be the most brilliant. As long as you're the most resilient, you're going to be the last one standing. And that's something you can practice. Number three, I would say it's really sort of like practicing good character. So like making the good physical and spiritual choices with honesty and purity, I think attracts an energy that will reward you and then reward the people you're closest to. That's kind of just being like, be a good person, I suppose.
Be a good person.
Yeah.
She said.
Yeah.
Be a good person, man.
That's right.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate you for having me.
Thank you, man.
For sure.
I appreciate that, and we're gonna call that a show. We're gonna wrap it up. So y'all, thank you for coming this time. Hope to see you next time. Just don't make it your last time. And we are out.
Oh, yeah.